stabilized on the east side of Manchester. Classic story, lots of deferred maintenance, poor tenant management. It was mom and pop owners that lived out of state, and they just were renting to whoever and not really keeping an eye on the property. The stabilization period went according to plan for the first part, so we did the 2 first floor units, and we started on the 2 third floor units, and we discovered something that we did not expect to discover. So these are some photos of the unit, just to give you an idea of the condition that they were in. So you can see, just very, very dirty, very unkept. And this was after it was cleaned out, so it was full of stuff when we got possession of the unit. But then, as we started to walk through this unit to generate a renovation estimate, we got to the back of the apartment and we found, oh, crayon everywhere. It was crayon everywhere, all over the walls, all over the trim, all over the doors, all over the window. Unfortunately, we learned that you can't wash crayon off. It's like wax. I mean, maybe you can, but it's just not worth it. So what we thought was going to be a straightforward paint and flooring and new kitchen, new bath kind of turned into brand new drywall, brand new trim, brand new doors, and it ended up bumping the renovation for this unit by about $10,000. So that was crayon horror. All right, Josh, love to hear a story from you.
Yeah, if you want to do one in the head, I'll do it. Yeah.
So again, we're a service provider, so I try to make this from your perspective, how you could gain value out of this. This was a phone call we received earlier this year. It was a long distance landlord. He lived out of state, and he called and said, hey, I got a problem. I got this condo and it's a disaster. He'd gotten the tenants out, which is the good news, and he needed to get it ready for sale. What had happened here is the tenants had, we'll just put it gently, addiction issues. And the place smelled like smoke. They loved to party. This was in a condo complex, so they pissed off absolutely everybody in the whole place. So it was just a horrible reputation. He was a really good guy. He wanted to do right by the community. So he said, "Can you help me out?" So we go in there and just give him a report. We have a 360 camera thing, so we were able to show him like what was going on room by room, walk him through, and say, "Hey, we got to do X, Y, and Z." A couple months before he called us, the upstairs condo had water damage. So they're not in these pictures, but there was collapsed ceilings. You can kind of see in the bottom picture where all those shoes are on the left-hand side. You can see it. Some of the wood floor had been ripped up. The tenants had damaged everything. The kitchen faucet was pretty much just ripped out of the sink, so you put on the water, it just shot straight in the air. All the appliances were never been cleaned. There was just nasty stuff left everywhere. I'm trying to think if I'm covering everything here, because there was surprises at every turn. But so basically, what ended up happening, I mentioned earlier.
Josh, what's this on the floor?
Thank you, Ryan.
Is that paper?
So everyone asks when they see these pictures, what the heck is all over the floor? They had some kind of obsession with shredding paper. I don't know why. I don't know if they were running from the IRS. I don't know. It was weird. There was a lot of weird stuff. Very uncomfortable situation for sure. But if we go to the next one, right? So long story short, this guy was tired, and I just kind of read him. Thankfully, I took the phone call. I said, "Hey, you want to just sell this as is and be done with it?" And he said, "Yeah." So we just bought it cash and then ended up flipping it. So we removed all the floors. You guys know the drill, right? So that's kind of the progress pictures right there. You can go to the last one, Ryan. That's Brenda's staging. The pictures of the 360 pictures, so everything was stretched out a little weird, but she did a great job after the renovation, really putting the final touches on it, and we sold it like real fast. It was really easy this year. So yeah, long distance landlording, I don't recommend it, at least from this guy's experience. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks so much. So I'm going to have to get you to use your imagination because I did not bring photos. But I want to talk about an eviction horror story. Essentially, similar story. You take over a property that needs some work, needs some tenant assistance. We had 3 roommates in a unit, and everything was going fairly well. At one point in time, I got a phone call that one of the residents needed a well check, and I was like, that's a red flag. And then next month, rent came in a little late. I'm like, okay, another red flag. But they paid it, and we were all squared away. And then the next month, no rent, no phone calls, no nothing. They just disappeared. You go, and we did a well check, and nobody's in the unit. We're like, okay. So we start the eviction paperwork, and then fortunately we had some emergency contact, so I was able to get a hold of one of the residents and find out that something had happened between the 2 residents, and that the one had been hauled off to jail somewhere, but they didn't know where. So I talked to the one resident and was like, hey, if we can't get a hold of him, you can't cover rent, we got to figure this one out. So he's like, okay, well, he's like, whatever I need to do. He's like, you've been great to us, all this, which is not what you expect to hear when evicting somebody, but terrific. So I got him signed off on a release for the apartment, and then had to find the next resident because he was missing in action. So you have a period of time, once you submit the paperwork, when it comes back and you are in front of the judge, and if there are no-show, then the judge just writes you your written, you're good to go. So I'm like, okay, we gotta find this guy and see if we can get this signed off and just solve this problem altogether. Unfortunately, I have quite a few connections in law enforcement, so I was calling them saying, hey, any idea where this guy is? And one happens to be the FBI. We're like, no, nobody can find this guy anywhere. So I'm like, okay, all right. Then you go from trying to find this guy everywhere to, oh my God, I hope he does not show up. Let's just get this thing signed. So we got very lucky, and he did not show up, and we were able to get the writ and turned around nicely. But long and short was it, unfortunately, there was a substance abuse problem that had come back into the environment, and all parties had fallen off the wagon, so to speak. So learning from that, it's just communication, and make sure you have emergency contacts.